Now, speaking of the parks, we're going to kind of pivot into some pretty good news. I mean, I've been pretty bullish on this next one. The Red Car Trolley is returning to California Adventure. There's been a lot of kind of talk about, hey, is this thing even going to come back? You know, it's expensive. I think like 2 cast members operating each trolley. I'm sure the capacity isn't like the greatest. It doesn't really make any money. Like it's not monetized. It's not like a bar or something like that. Mm-hmm. I was worried for a long time. I was like, I don't know. I hope this comes back. I really do, because I do feel it adds a lot of kinetic energy to California Adventure, and I have a soft spot for California Adventure. It's like I'm rooting for it because like the underdog story. I want this little park to do well. I was really happy when Disney officially announced it is returning. I don't believe they gave an official date, but it is returning. The Newsboys show, though, which was phenomenal, will unfortunately not be part of that reopening. That has been canceled. But Jay, I want to go to you first. Like, what are your thoughts on the Red Car Trolley returning? Overall feelings on how it like impacts the park? Where are you at with this?
Yeah, so it sounds like you and I are going to be very similar pages on this one too, because I mean, I remember I was there when California Adventure opened, right? Like, I've been around since that time, and it had some issues with it. It felt a lot more like, and I'm sure you guys have covered this in depth, but it felt a lot more like an amusement park as opposed to a theme park in many regards. And I think one of the things that when Iger announced that it was going to be Buena Vista Street, and then they rethemed that whole section, what he did was he added that kind of perfect Disney touch to a park that really needed that at the time. And the Red Car Trolley is one of the only things that I can think of, besides the cast members who are playing characters. It's one of the only things that has the Disneyland feel, where you walk into Disneyland and you see the vehicles going around the circle, and you see, it's been a while since I've been to Disneyland, but you have the horse-drawn carriage coming down the street, right? Yeah. So like, I think that the Red Car Trolley is one of the things for California Adventure, one of the only things for California Adventure that gives that same vibe. Yeah. I do think that they have a little bit of an issue in that it doesn't it kind of still go out towards Guardians, right? Like, so that's a little bit, maybe they'll change the track. I don't know, that it doesn't see. It seems like if it goes into the Marvel area, that's maybe a little bit off theme. But other than that, I think the Red Car Trolley is just so cool. I mean, when you see the thing coming down Hollywood Boulevard or Sunset Boulevard or whatever they call it there, is it Hollywood or Sunset?
Hollywood, right?
It's Hollywood. Yeah, it's Hollywood. It's Hollywood Boulevard, yeah.
Okay. And as it comes down that street, it's like, this is cool, man. Like, this is just great theming. It's like perfect for this whole zone. So I'm excited. Anytime they bring something back, bummer about the Newsies show. Like, you hate to hear that. But I think it's great. The more you get back to that kind of stuff, the better.
Yeah, no, 100%. 100%. What do you think, Dre?
I'll add some clarity to that point about the Avengers and Marvel as well. From what I understand, it will go pretty much, the new route is going to be, from what we've heard, going to go just as far as the animation building, and then it's going to go ahead and head back. They actually spent a considerable amount of money to make a new charging station for the Red Car Trolley in Buena Vista Street itself. That was one of the last few projects that was wrapping up right before everything shut down and everything like that. But it was all in an effort to make it so that it never interacts with Avengers Campus during the day. That was the kind of mindset. So even though the tracks are out there, because obviously the storage location for those vehicles is past that location, during the day while on stage, as we like to say at Disney, it'll never actually make an appearance. So that is good. And look, I agree with you. I know you're kind of story minded. Sunshine Plaza previously to Buena Vista Street didn't have really a time or place, right? It wasn't quite of a setting. It's kind of the introductory lanes in these parks are usually referred to by executives as retail corridors. That's kind of the mindset, right? And that's exactly what it was. But to actually, create a new time and place and setting to set you up, that's following, Walt Disney, Main Street, and that kind of thing. And it brought it more in line with that. And I think, like you said, I mean, there's not really a lot of other things that make that story come alive other than the Red Car Trolley. And
Right.
to get it back, I mean, it is really, really cool. I've seen a lot of people, they go to like Walt Disney World's Magic Kingdom's Main Street, right? And you can kind of see a little bit of that retail corridor philosophy taking place. And one of those is that they don't really have Main Street vehicles. It's kind of interesting. Watch a vlogger go to Main Street this time for the first time. They always get impressed by how many Main Street vehicles we actually have going up and down the boulevard there. It definitely makes an impression. A lot of it's going to be subconscious for the, overwhelming amount of guests, but they do take it in. It does do its job in recreating that story. And cementing that in people's minds. So this is a big deal. This is not just this little kind of what is it, simple operation, right? Where it's like two cast members and it doesn't have a lot of capacity or whatever, and operational just get in the way. You can make the argument, right? It's more about taking Disney California Adventure up a notch.
Right.
And I think it accomplishes that. So this is very it's very symbolic, I think.
It is. And the great thing about Buena Vista Street as a whole is that it really kind of bookends Main Street kind of perfectly. It was kind of brilliant in that you go to Main Street and you're kind of experiencing Walt Disney's like boyhood town of Marceline, Missouri, Then you go across the way and you go to DCA, and this is like his Walt Disney in his early 20s coming to Los Angeles. It's just such a perfect kind of like George Lucas says, it's poetry, it rhymes. It very much is that, like, those bookends. I love it. I absolutely love it. Now, I will say this a little bit about the whole, the trolley going into Vendors Campus. I'm glad to hear that they're going to stop in Hollywood Boulevard and go back. That's great. I wouldn't mind, though, if it did go into Vendors Campus, just because I feel like even at Disneyland, you see kind of like these juxtapositions of like contradicting themes all the time. I mean, we have the Swiss Alps, the Matterhorn, with a monorail circling around it. I mean, it's weird. I mean, it's really, really weird. But it works because, it's Disneyland and we're just kind of used to it. I do think it could work in Avengers Campus, especially since, the Avengers sort of take place in our real world. Trolley isn't completely out of the realm of possibility to see in that world that the Avengers live in, which is our world, really. I wouldn't mind it. But with that said, I am glad, though, that they aren't going to make regular routes through it. If they can avoid it and just go down Hollywood, that's preferable, I think. But if they did stop at Avengers Campus, I'm not too upset. I am glad, though. There were rumors a few years ago that they were going to actually transform the trolley into a web trolley. The engineering brigade, that web slingers, basically. There was that rumor for a long time, and that made me really nervous. I'm glad they didn't go down that route. I think that would have been a disaster. That would have been cringy. Yeah.
Well, and harkening back to our conversation about Chapek, bringing back the Red Car Trolley is not a good financial decision. I'm sure it costs more money than it does move people, right? Like, it's just right. So I think that there you go. There's an example of Chapek probably not having a direct line of thought in it, but he didn't cancel it. He didn't strike it off the balance sheet or the income statement. He let it go. So yeah, there you go.
No, 100%, Jay, and that's a great point, and that's a great point. You got to give that credit where it's due, because it would have been very easy for a guy like Chapek to be like, hey, you know what, DeMauro, don't bring it back. The capacity isn't the greatest. It's expensive to run. We'll keep it mothballed. Or we'll park it and make it a bar, the Red Bar Trolley.
Which I would go to, by the way. You'd see me there.
Me too, man. Me too. I would actually go to that. But yeah, I mean, I could definitely see that happening, and they didn't go down that route. And even like, to Chapek's credit, like even with the Epcot stuff, as much as a lot of fans kind of complain about the Epcot stuff, and there's a lot to complain about, believe me. But they don't really have to pander to like the Epcot purists. Like a lot of the like aesthetics and all that they're doing with the Epcot remodel is very much like a love letter to those Epcot diehard fans, right? They don't really have to do that. I mean, they could just go all in on the IP and say, screw it, and they're not. They're kind of trying to balance it. Yeah, we're getting Moana, we're getting the IP, but hey, look, we're going to get the old school, I don't know what they call that, the glass kind of spire.
The triangular, kind of a look up on, fountain. Yeah, in the entrance of Epcot, yeah.
And it has a name, official name, but you guys know what I'm talking about. They're trying to at least appeal to those old school Epcot fans while also appealing to the normies with the Moana stuff and the IP stuff. And you got to give them credit for that too. I mean, look, they didn't have to do that. They can just go all in on the IP. The general public will eat that up like crazy. They don't really have to pander to this niche market of these purists, and they still do it, which I don't know. You got to give them credit for that, in my opinion.
Yeah. And to Jay's point about writing that off the balance sheet, we saw a lot of that during the Pro First era. I saw a lot of that where it was just like, what, it only does that amount of capacity. Let's go ahead and strike that off the ledger. Strike this, strike that. And I was kind of worried when this kind of reimagining of the parks division was taking place with the reopening. I was like, ooh, what is? I'm sure all these things are going to be reevaluated, and the fact that they kind of stuck to it and said, no, wait, listen, to Jay's point, it doesn't move the needle. It's an operational hassle. It takes money. It's all these kind of things, but it's essential to the story, right? And I thought right there that was symbolic of that kind of mindset. To Jay's point, of hey, we're going to put. That has a valuation too, and I thought that was really important that they maintained that. And yeah, to your point, OG, about these kind of juxtapositions. The one that everybody points to is the castle at the end of Main Street. Doesn't make any sense, but that juxtaposition works, and I think some of those juxtapositions work better than others. So yeah. I do agree with you. I wouldn't have been too upset had it gone back there, but it is like, hey, what story were we trying to tell? Is this consistent with it? And they made the executive decision at great expense to keep it out. Right. That has to be acknowledged as well.